Welcome to the Southern Ohio Museums from the Vault series. Today you've got the two of us. This is Executive Director Mark Chepp and I'm the Artistic Director Charlotte Gordon.
Today we're going to be talking about an artist in the museum's permanent collection named Ralph Bell. We have 3 works by Ralph in the collection. They are behind me. Ralph is a Columbus, Ohio native. He was born in 1913 to an African-American man and a Native American woman. And from birth, Ralph Bell suffered from cerebral palsy. For the next 60 years, Ralph essentially lived with this affliction in an isolated kind of environment from the rest of the world. By the age of 9, his parents, who were impoverished, could no longer care for him 24/7. So they put him in the Ohio State Institution at Riot, where he basically sat for the next, as I said, 60 years until the early 1980s when he was transferred to an adult daycare facility that had programs for the people with disabilities. He first met a woman there named Eva Race, who was sort of a care worker, a mentor, but was soon also introduced to the institute, or the daycare center's, art director, a man by the name of Dean Campbell. Ralph and Dean became friends, and through Eva Race and Dean Campbell, who recognized Ralph's ebullient personality, he was provided with art supplies. Now, he had no formal education. He did not know what art was. He had never been introduced to art. But somehow Dean, as an art therapist, recognized the potential in this man. The question was how to get him to express himself. As a quadriplegic, he couldn't move any of his limbs. Dean came up with a means that Ralph could paint by using a long-handled brush attached to a helmet on his head. And they fashioned one of those. Dean provided him with paper, canvas, acrylics, paints, and for the next 13 years, Ralph basically painted nonstop, day and well into the night, with his head in this apparatus. When we go into a gallery or a museum setting and we look at paintings, we tend to do so by standing away from them, several feet back, and taking in the whole of the image. With Ralph's work, we can do that, stand back, look at it, get that tapestry-like dynamism that seems to be a hallmark of his work. But to really understand what the work is about, we have to get up to where Ralph was actually painting it. Ralph could not stand back from his paintings. He was in his wheelchair, and the length of his paintbrush attached to his head is really as far back as he could get from a painting. He had help moving him around or moving the painting around while he was working on it, but his point of view was right up close, and that detail right up close is what he was most interested in getting at.
So here we have an artist who's painting with his head, with a paintbrush attached to it. And so if you think about the energy that this artist must have, he's trapped in a body that doesn't work. And this Ralph produces these canvases that are a cacophony of energy and color and explosion. He's using very bold colors and very consistent brush strokes. He very early on developed his own style. And you have these very deliberate brush strokes, many of them circular in motion, bringing these in. And he does this really amazing thing, layering colors. He is working on acrylics, with acrylics on canvas, and he's layering color after color after color in a very systematic, very methodical way. He then overlays it with this staccato of brush strokes, of these dabs. And to get up close to these, is you really see the beauty of these. These brush strokes aren't just dabs of any single color. He has loaded the brush very carefully with very specific colors. And here we have greens to yellows with some reds in there that are placed on top of this salmon color that's bleeding to this yellow color. And on top of the whole thing, he's also got these white brush strokes going through. So it wasn't enough for him to leave the white canvas underneath, but he's actually going back and adding white as the color on top. Incorporated into every one of his canvases, he has very clearly signed his name and taken ownership of his paintings. But if you really look closely at his brushstrokes, you'll see them as he translates it over. He's also working in watercolors. The paper is much smaller than the canvas is, but yet it's still a very good size. And here we have an example of one of Ralph Bell's watercolors. He was a very versatile artist, working in both acrylics and watercolors. This is on a cotton paper that is a very heavy absorbent paper. And here we've got his same bold colors. And even though they're watercolors, he's using very saturated color tones. We see the repetition of his same types of brushstrokes in watercolor as he was using in acrylics. The same blending of colors that we see. And here we have a man, again, with what a lot of people would perceive as not much control over a brush, but yet he's showing a lot of control and a lot of repetition and a lot of a developing sense of style. Here we have this wonderful inlay of color here in which this whole staccato of dots, if you have that brush strokes dotted onto this grayish white surface that are very intentional. We've got this orangey, yellow, and greens all blending in to this, and that type of motif being repeated throughout this whole surface. And again, we see him very proudly signing his canvases in the corner.